China imposed the strictest regulations over minors' online game time
They already found a way around it. The kids, children, they're creative.
The kids found a way?
They already got through it.
Oh, that's going to change this entire spiel then. I guess we got to rewrite this video. Well, as I was saying, China imposed the strictest regulations over minors' online game time just over a week ago, and just over a week later, as it turns out, minors and third parties have already found ways to circumvent the restrictions. So to bring you up to speed, in case you missed it, just over a week ago, China's National Press and Publication Administration announced that as of September 1st, those under the age of 18 would only be allowed 1 hour of online gaming on weekends and official holidays from the hours of 8 to 9 p.m. You don't even get to choose your hour. This announcement was Google translated by PC Gamer and goes on to explain that the restrictions go much further. Players are required to register using their real names. Game studios are restricted from providing any services to unregistered users. This includes any sort of free trial or what PC Gamer's translation referred to as, quote, a tourist experience mode. China's National Press and Publication Administration has a real name verification system, which studios are required to route all online games through. Kyle, we're older now. I don't know about you, but when I'm feeling the weight of no longer being in my 20s, I think about how much better it is not having my parents telling me how much time I get to spend playing video games. I'm really thankful that I'm not a teenager in China right now.
This is so multifaceted. I played too many video games. You went productive members of society. Not all my Smash Bros. Skills translated directly to real life skills.
Wait, up B, down B, forward B.
Never needed
and then
it.
doing that all with A. That doesn't translate. I can't do that.
Can't say I did, but I did learn how to practice. Did I need that much game time to realize that practicing the night before, hang out with my friends, made me better the next day? Probably not. An important life lesson, but probably not. Not something my family really gave me, though. They were more about natural talent. They always went on about, like, well, do what you're naturally good at, instead of do what you practice. Actually become good at something and then sell that. So it's such a multifaceted idea. On the base level, I do think that this could make a very productive workforce. And you'll have to choose your game and spend your time very carefully. Only an hour. Which my next immediate thought is poor League of Legends.
Wait, why poor League of Legends?
Because you only have an hour. Would you really, if you had 1 hour of game time a night, Garrett, would you really sign yourself up for the gamble that is an hour-long MOBA? You only get one. You no redos. No staying in for that win. You get one game.
Yeah. Yeah, that might explain why more mobile-focused MOBAs are more successful in the Chinese market. That's where my brain goes with this. Like, clearly, like, we were born and raised in the United States. Here, it really lands on your parents, how much control they impose or don't impose over your gaming habits. Mine did to a certain extent. It sounds like yours might have been. Actually, I know, because I've been working with you for over a decade. I know your parents were a little stricter than mine when it came to your game time.
I mean, if we want to go dramatic, we could call it draconic. I did it to myself, 100%. I lied. I skipped my homework. I said it was already done so I could keep playing Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time. And when my grades suffered, no video games Monday through Thursday, and no video games afternoon on Sunday. So Friday nights, Saturdays.
So your parents are basically China, is what you're telling me.
It wasn't an hour limit, though. But
okay, all right.
But it did lead to an environment where if they were busy, I was very excited, because I was about to get to play a bunch of video games. If my sister had a show that weekend, she was taking them all out of the house. Hurrah! That's the time I'm going to put in some big old game time. and this restriction isn't just on weekdays, though. Like, it also sits on the weekends.
Right. That it's very specifically like that 1 hour from 8 to 9 p.m. is only on weekends. So there's nothing Monday through Thursday, and then you get 1 hour on weekends and national holidays if you are under the age of 18 in China. And yeah, dude, this like hits me. I feel bad. I feel bad for young gamers in China, because this just seems so. This goes against how I was brought up, which whatever. That's personal mileage varying, but I find it so fascinating, because to me this just seems so excruciatingly restrictive. But I also kind of had a chuckle when I first heard this news, because and I think you and I had a chat about this off air, which was like, I think our brains went to the same place, which is like, they'll find a way around this real quick. Real quick. You know who's industrious? Gamers.
Kids looking to sneak video games in the evening.
Yeah. Kids will find, the youth will find a way, and the youth has already found a way. Also, like third parties, businesses looking to make money, looking to capitalize on the restrictions of, in my opinion, over oppressive government. And it's just kind of hilarious. So like just this morning, a Kotaku article went up relaying a story from the Chinese government's own paper, People's Daily, which reported that Tencent has already sued over 20 e-commerce websites and platforms that are providing account trading or account renting for the online multiplayer game Honor of Kings. Apparently it's known as Arena of Valor here, and I guess there's some differences. Okay. Arena of Valor is like an international retooling of Honor of Kings for the rest of the world outside of China. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Honor of Kings, it's a free-to-play MOBA. It's developed by Teamy Studio Group, and it's published by Tencent for both the iOS and the Android mobile platforms for the Chinese market. Now, according to the South China Morning Post, it was the first game in the world to average more than 100 million users a day. And this is not first in the category. This is regardless of platform and country. This is just straight up first game to average 100 million users a day. And this is a game that is strictly for the Chinese market. So that's to give you an idea of how big this game is. Now, PC Gamer explains that the websites Tencent is suing allows minors to rent accounts tied to users over the age of 18. So these accounts are not restricted by this new... It's not a law yet, technically, but it's not restricted by these new restrictions. If you allow that terrible sentence. But anyways, these sites effectively give minors the power to circumvent the restrictions that Tencent has put into place to comply with these new Chinese regulations. And apparently prices start around 33 yuan, which is around $5 US. And it's for 2 hours of use. So $5 for 2 hours. Again,
triple your game time by paying $5. Okay. And that's not like a foreign idea, because of course we have a lot of pay-as-you-go sort of models. There's the gaming cafes that don't really exist here in the U.S. Like, we are extremely isolated when we game. But yeah, we learned about that in our earlier days covering StarCraft 2, learning that these gaming cafes were a huge thing in South Korea. And that many people just didn't straight up own the game because it was more convenient or just more socially popular to hang out there instead. So why bother bringing that in your home? And certainly, if your parents are going to be awkward or restrictive over your shoulder while you're trying to play a game, what better thing to go to after school than a gaming cafe? But what I found really interesting is that this isn't brand new. It's actually an evolution of previous restrictions that started back in 2019. Where it was actually originally 3 hours per day, which you can see why things like Tencent would go, whoa, no, let's go back in time here. 3 hours is way more kind to mobile games and multiplayers. And it was like even more compartmentalized. The restrictions in 2019, it was 3 hours per day, and that was similar to how it is now, where it's only on weekends and holidays. But they also gave 90 minutes per day the rest of the week to players under the age of 18. And again, this is the other thing that's really
interesting about this is that it's only online games, which to a certain degree makes sense, right? Because you would need to route it through some sort of online system that could actually check the age of the account and all that stuff to even impose these regulations in the first place. But yeah, the regulations that came in 2019 still allowed for a short amount of game time during the week and a longer amount of game time on weekends and holidays. So yeah, it's just getting more strict. And it's like, I see what they're going for. Clearly, I do. I'm as American as they come. My freedoms. I don't agree with this. But I'm also fascinated by it, like, because it's so specific and you can see the trajectory of it. Like, why? Why are they getting stricter? What are they not accomplishing that they were hoping to accomplish? Are they're looking at like grades across the board going, nope, sorry, y'all, listen. It's like Kyle, you ever did a group project and you're really mad because you did a lot of work, but you ended up with a C because the rest of your group didn't jack.
Sure.
Do you think it's that? Do you think that's what's going on? That they're looking at the nationwide average of grades and going, nope, sorry, you got to bring those grades up. You only get 1 hour a day on weekends now. That's it.
Right. Some scorned adult just entered power and is like, no. You are focusing on a hobby that all in all is ultimately innocent, a lot of fun, and can teach things like teamwork. And how does something like tennis or basketball go on to help you in the future more than gaming did when you think of it in that sort of team-based and practice-based kind of lesson system? But what I'm wondering is, for us at home and in the United States, across the world, does this mean less of a focus on the Chinese market? If we're not trying to sell them in their style and we can't reach the kids who are able to consume more than the parents, will games stop going after that market so aggressively? And will we see a change back? Or even, will we see more single player games that don't need online connectivity because you can't track them? There's nothing that this law or this system can do to stop a kid from picking up their Nintendo Switch and playing some Zelda at night. That's ultimately the parent's decision, though the government does suggest you should follow the rules all the same.
That is very interesting, right? Like, I mean, there's already offline games, and at a certain point, if you can take your system offline and continue playing anything, like, someone physically has to stop you at that point. Like, there's only so much that can be done, unless you're getting into like controlling the sale of every computer and having software on there locally that has some sort of restriction. But again, I bet enterprising minors would find a way around it because the machines are sitting in their home to be tampered with.
It's easy to assume that this generation of adults is more tech savvy, but they're not necessarily savvy in the games that are being played. For instance, I'm not going to play Dark Souls with it connected to the internet because I don't want anybody coming in there and killing me. Because that's how invaders happen, by being on the internet. If I unplug that cable, guess what? No multiplayer invaders. I get to enjoy a solo Dark Souls experience. A parental unit who doesn't understand Dark Souls isn't going to know the difference between a kid sitting at the game that was once plugged in and is now not.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to come back to your question of like, does this mean we're going to have less of a focus on the Chinese market, which as someone who likes Hearthstone is really bouncing around my brain right now with the announcement of Mercenaries, which just looks like everything I can't stand about mobile games. It really does look aimed at more of this kind of Chinese market where things like gacha games are really, really successful. Not that they're not successful here in the States. There's plenty of gacha games that do quite well here as well. But it's not my jam. But you bring up a really interesting point that I don't see people talking about a lot, which is which is the fact that, you know, we as gamers kind of always point at China and go, that's bad gaming practices. It's money grubbing. It's pay to win, all that kind of bad stuff. Like making games for China equals bad. But what people don't really talk about is the fact that it's hard as hell to make games that work underneath all of these very strict Chinese regulations. Like I'm sure even the larger Chinese-based publishers like Tencent would much prefer a relaxed system like what we have here in the States. It's just that, from an American gaming journalism side of things, we're only privy to so much coming out of China. Everything is so heavily controlled. We don't really have no one in Tencent leadership isn't going to do an interview where they complain about how difficult it is to actually publish games under Chinese game regulations is the point I'm trying to make. And I think that's just so damn fascinating. And I wish more people talked about it.
But we're also seeing Tencent, perhaps, we think we're trying to go into China to sell games. I bet you it's also the opposite, that Tencent is trying to get out of China to sell games. That's why we're seeing things like Diablo Immortal and the Pokemon Unite, as well as, oh man, what's their new one coming out? Anyway.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing Tencent logos before movies now.
Yeah, that's
Big
true.
Blockbuster American movies. One of them I've been waiting to see for 2 years because it keeps getting delayed. Top Gun Maverick is produced by Tencent. Huh. Yeah, but also both Venom movies have Tencent attached to it, for example. Yeah.
What? Huh. Those are really weird movies.
yeah. Less weird, though. The Warcraft movie was Tencent produced.
Okay. Oh, well, the graphics. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Those were mobile graphics throughout that movie.
Oh, come on. The special effects look great.
Only when they were special effects next to special effects, I will say. It was very green screeny, like the likes I have not seen since the prequels.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm just going down a Wikipedia rabbit hole. Bumblebee. They were attached to Bumblebee.
Okay. Interesting choice. So there's no rhyme or reason. There's no system that we can really identify. But I mean, like, this is a really interesting bit from PC Gamer that Tencent is now using facial recognition to stop children in China from gaming all night. Like, they're having to come up with their own ways to obey the laws in order to continue to promote their product, because I would think here that they're being represented as some sort of evil entity, as some sort of pusher.
It sure seems like they kind of saw the tightening of these regulations coming, because this article that you're showing right now is from July.
Yeah.
This facial recognition software from Tencent was debuted back in July. And a lot of the reports covering these new regulations, which are even more strict, are talking about the fact that it seems Tencent was ahead of the curve. I go and I look at that and I think to myself, again, I find the narrative of it is very difficult for even Chinese-based companies to release games in China so interesting that I also look at that and go, I could see Tencent doing this just to look good to the branches of the Chinese government that are imposing these regulations.
I mean, it's not
like, even if it doesn't work all that great, they're like, well, look, we're going a step beyond our competitors. We're really trying. Like, even if it's like kind of a wonky system.
We have a perfect example of this happening recently with the Blizzard allegations. No, state of California, you don't need to get involved. See how we're handling it. It's no different here. They're basically saying, China, look what we're doing to help obey these sort of restrictions or these social norms that you're trying to push. You don't need to actually, get in there and make laws. That's just going to complicate things for money making.
Yeah, which if anyone watching or listening actually knows if there's been reported ways to circumnavigate these facial recognition systems, specifically the Tencent one, I'm really interested. I went looking, I couldn't find anything, but I was curious if people were just, printing out masks of 30-year-olds to just wear for the facial recognition system. Okay. So just like, I don't know, how many crow's feet do you need in the corners of your eyes to trick the system? What if you're really good with makeup?
That's fair. Got to get dressed up to play games after all.
This is the places my brain goes. Yeah, I'm gonna. So Kyle, I think we have a strong future in facial recognition tricking cosmetics industry. What do you think? Makeup for underage gamers.
Have you seen some of these though? They can de-age and age. Like it from the future look of facial recognition. It'll pull up elementary school photos of you, because ultimately your eyes, your ears, all of it is taken into account. I mean, we're seeing this with wacky little music making videos where if you have your head turned sideways, it knows naturally you probably have two ears, not everybody, but it's going to then replicate another ear on the side of your head when it moves you about for your little TikTok dance business. And I don't mean that in like a demeaning way. I think they're hilarious. I too have shared my face with some unknown company to see myself sing Despacito.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things I just find it fascinating. Like how easy is it to try and get around these types of systems? Like, because I have the Snap Camera app installed, and I can tell my computer that's basically my webcam. Could I assign that as my webcam for this type of tech and run a filter first? And does that do anything? I don't know. I'm getting lost in the weeds here, but these are the places my brain goes when I hear about these systems. But it's just wildly fascinating. And also, again, like I just come back around to, boy, I'm glad I'm not 16 years old and living in China right now.
I don't want to be 16 years old living with the modern camera system in the first place.
Oh, yeah. I did some dumb stuff.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that it would be uploaded to the internet, like there are phones sitting in a landfill somewhere that have very cringy materials upon them, of which I recorded and enjoyed with my friends. I do not desire that to be on the internet. I'm sure happy that my flip phone wasn't capable of uploading.
By the time I had a camera or a phone that could do video camera, I had wizened up a bit as to what I was pointing a camera at, mercifully. But anyways, I find this interesting. I would be very surprised if this is the last set of regulations we see come out trying to control the game time of minors in China. But this certainly seems to be a major push that I was really looking forward to chatting with you about. So we'll add links to all of the stories that we covered in the description below, or in the blog post if you're catching this on the download. If you want to write in, be a part of the show because you're a podcast listener, check out, send it over to itncast@gmail.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, please, as always, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you keep getting these videos. We've been really enjoying doing them. Let us know what stories you would like us to cover on future episodes. So anyways, it's going to wrap it up for this one. Until next time, good luck and have fun, everyone.